Welcome back. It's Morgan here with this week's Milky Minute. This week's episode is on swaddling. It's a very common practice that every parent does. It's a great coping, soothing technique for a lot of babies. My daughters personally were mummified for almost the first 6 months of their life. They slept great. But other than coping, there are some side effects of swaddling when it's done in these first few days. Now, we do know that through research, skin-to-skin time is absolutely important, and that swaddling does create a barrier between mom and baby, and so it interferes with some of that skin-to-skin time. And not just that, but the swaddling also masks a lot of the newborn's early feeding cues. So the early feeding cues are when the eyes are still closed and the baby's just starting to rouse. So it might turn its head in a rooting reflex and then stop, or bring its hands to its mouth, mouth at it just a little bit and then stop. But if this baby's swaddled up tight, you can imagine, especially if it's swaddled with its hands down, it might go and keep sleeping. And the parents totally missed the feeding cue. And so what actually rouses the parents is later feeding cues. And in these first few days, especially day 2 and day 3, when there's that cluster feeding going on, those later feeding cues can cause marathon feeds where the baby doesn't want to get off the breast. It can cause infant frustration because the baby's now hungry and mom just still has her colostrum. And so she has to kind of battle with the baby a little bit to settle down. And the baby, it takes longer to put back to sleep. Early feeding cues are amazing at getting baby on, getting baby fed, and getting baby back to sleep because baby was never fully awake to begin with. And that swaddling, especially with swaddling with hands down, masks those feeding cues. And then when parents swaddle and baby is asleep in the swaddle, they feel that it's easier to, okay, baby's asleep, let me put the little one down. And when they put the baby in the bassinet, and they go lay down themselves, now they are completely asleep as well, both mom and dad, and nobody's watching little one for those feeding cues. So swaddling is an absolutely wonderful technique. Teaching our new parents how to swaddle is great, showing them how that it can be used as a soothing technique to calm late feeding cues, so to get the baby back to the breast, things like that. But it really should be discouraged in these first few days as just a normal sleeping practice to get baby to sleep longer, because it interferes with those feeding cues, interferes with skin to skin, and can delay that onset of milk supply and not get mom as much stimulation as she really should if she was holding baby skin to skin unswaddled. So if you see a parent that brings their newborn swaddle blankets with the Velcro and everything, just encouraging them to wait on that until the milk supply comes in at least. Or if they do wrap up a baby, have it be underneath the armpits so their hands are up and available. The baby's chest is still exposed, so whenever you are doing skin to skin, there is more skin contact, and then the baby's hands are more readily accessible to the baby's mouth, so that that little one can rouse themselves more easily. As they touch their own face, they wake themselves up, and so they'll be more likely to wake up sooner with their hands out than if they were swaddled tight, mummified, like a little caterpillar in their cocoon, sleeping all the way. So short and sweet video today. Swaddling, great technique. Not quite appropriate in the first few days unless it's a calming of later feeding cues or de-escalating a baby's upset, or if you're doing a procedure, say a heel stick or something, having that baby swaddled can provide a little bit of comfort and things like that. But it shouldn't really be done in the first few days as just a normal sleeping practice so that parents can get more sleep, because there is the side effect of less breastfeeding, more escalation of feeding cues, and then you get a fussier baby. So that's this week's Milky Minute. Hope it helps, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.